All right, so welcome everyone to the Monday webinar. Remember, this is kind of the outlook. This is my weekly watch list. These are some of the trades and some of the setups that I think are going to be really interesting to watch and hopefully get into this week. Remember that we do these live sessions actually a couple of times a day for the trading group. And anyone interested can get a free trial by going to daytradersfx.com and clicking on Start Here, and you can get a free trial to the live trade group. One thing I get asked about a lot, and I'll just kind of run through this real super quick here, is how to get to the different membership options. And remember, if you just click on that button, that big green button to start the free trial on the front page, the top one includes the live trade room free trial, $79 a month, and if you scroll down a little bit further, the bottom one is $37 a month, and that just includes all the website access, and you can watch all the recordings, get all the trade calls, mobile trade alerts. You just don't get access to the live trade room, which we're in right now. So that's the two differences there. But either way, you'll get access to our trades, and we've had some pretty fantastic ones lately. So I hope to see some of you guys in with us this week. So let's have a look at a couple of things here. We have got a good week of news and of trade setups. Just to double check, does everyone still have sound, or is Ralph the only one that's having some sound issues? Is the sound coming through good for everyone still? Never know, never know. Okay, excellent. All right. So here's just a quick little look at the calendar this week and at what we've got going on. As far as Monday goes, nothing too crazy, nothing too exciting. We've got a little bit of Aussie news coming up today, and everything's looking pretty good here. Coming into Tuesday, it's not a really busy day on Tuesday. We've got some manufacturing production numbers from the UK and a little bit of Aussie news. Wednesday is going to be a bit of an interesting one. Some employment numbers from the UK and some interest rate news out of New Zealand and employment numbers out of Australia. So Wednesday should be a pretty active day. So we're going to be looking at that. And yes, Ted, to answer your question, yes, they definitely do. Yep. Thursday we've got a little bit of news, nothing too terribly crazy, some retail sales, a little Bank of Canada, Bank of England chatting and so on. So it's not a real heavy news week, and this is actually pretty good because we had a crazy heavy news week last week, and it's kind of tough when we have so much news. I actually like, we need some news to get the markets moving and running, but we had so much news last week that it was just craziness. So let me start off by saying that we are definitely focused on the pound pairs. This week is pound pair setup heaven. As many pound pair shorts as I can get into, I will be happy about that. And so I'm definitely going to be looking into as many pound shorts as possible. We're going to talk about which setups those are. And by the way, guys, if there is a little bit of audio difficulty, remember this is recorded and you can definitely watch the recording. If my sound is having some issues, which you never know, could definitely be the case, this is all recorded and it'll be posted and you can watch the recording. Okay, so euro dollar, we made some pretty good pips on the euro dollar. Okay, excellent, Charles, thanks. We made some pretty good pips on the euro dollar. We jumped out of it as it was starting to approach some oversold territory, and it's kind of just stalled out. We got out in this area here, and it's just been sideways for several days. We had some spikes down and some runs back on up here. I would still like to be short euro dollar, but it needs to probably get a bit higher. We don't actually have a great setup on euro dollar really in any direction, and most of the setup that we have on euro dollar is going to be long at the moment. So if we look at this big run down right here, we have this huge hammer. This is a huge hammer on the daily chart, and that typically doesn't just go totally unnoticed. Market will react to those big hammers. especially on daily charts like that. So the euro dollar spiked down, gave us a nice little reversal, and it's coming back up. Now, in the process, from this high to this low right here, we have crossed the 23% fib and have not reached the 38% fib, which, as we know, typically markets, once they cross that 23, they almost always make it to the 38, even if there's some retracement in between times. And so with this little move down right here, we're coming back down again. I'm still pretty confident that the euro is going to reach that 38% fib. Again, for the reason that once candles start to cross that 23% fib, which we've done right here at about 138.18, or excuse me, 136.18. As soon as they cross that 23, there's just such a high probability of reaching that 38 and even 50, but definitely very, very, very high chance of reaching that 38. That's thing number one. Number two is we have a little bit of an oversold 4-hour chart here that just doesn't want to retrace as much as it looks like it should. So remember, the last time we touched that 200 moving average on the 4-hour chart has been 133 bars, which is pretty significant, pretty important. Because that's definitely considered oversold on this 4-hour chart. So we're really looking for, as far as some short-term trades go, if this euro dollar, now let me clarify on this one, I'm not putting a pending order on the euro dollar right now or anything. I'm going to watch this over the next 12 and 24 hours, and we're going to have another chance to talk about this during the morning session. But tomorrow morning, that is. But I'm going to be watching this euro dollar, and if it stays above 135.00, but gets a little bit closer to that 135.00, I'm probably going to be looking for opportunities to buy euro dollar short term, targeting the 137, just shy of 137.00. Remember, we have that 38% fib up here, 136.90, and we've got that 200 moving average. So the 200 moving average really is kind of our big deal situation there. So we're just going to watch price action for a little bit, and we're going to look for a little bit of a shorter term trade, probably somewhere in the 150 pip profit target mark. Right now, we're about 100 pips from that level. If this drops another 50 pips or so and continues to give us any kind of positive price action, price patterns here, then we're going to be looking to get long euro dollar and trade it up into 137.00 area. So again, it's not a pending order yet. It's not like a must get into trade that I'm crazy excited about, but I think it's going to be a good one as long as things continue to look good over the next 12 to 24 hours. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on that one, but I think there's going to be a good opportunity to get long euro dollar for 100 to 150 pips. And then from there, definitely if we get back up above 137.00, then at that point I'll be looking to short euro dollar once again and trade it back towards our big area that we're looking for, which is the low 130s. So overall, I think we have a great chance of euro dollar dropping a lot, but for the short term, I think there's probably going to be a buy opportunity worth 100 plus pips, to hopefully get us positioned better for that big long-term short that I think we're going to be able to get back into. Short-term charts are choppy and messy, so we got to be a little bit careful with this one. So that's why this isn't like a big weekly outlook trade. The weekly outlook on euro dollar is really getting short above 137.00. The shorter-term outlook is getting long above 135.00. So that's what I'm looking for on this euro dollar, and we'll see if it plays out and gives us an entry. But otherwise, we are absolutely looking for big long-term shorts up at a bit of a higher price. Okay, pound dollar. So as I mentioned, my real focus this week is on pound pairs, and I think we've got a good opportunity to start with a lot of pound shorts. Now, in the group, we're already short pound dollar, and we're watching this thing. Remember, this pound dollar is really super duper over bought on this daily chart. It just keeps staying steady. It's not necessarily, in fact, it's not making new highs at all. It's making lower highs and has been for the last month. And we're trying to sell these rallies here because we know that this big daily outlook, once again, if we go to this daily chart right here, we can see that we're 245 bars since the last test of the 200 moving average on the daily chart, which is a pretty big deal. We have our 23% fib on this big run up all the way down here at 164.80. Our chances of reaching 16500 pretty soon, I would say, the chances are great. They're super great. And so that's why we're already short pound dollar. If it runs higher, if the pound dollar, especially if it breaks 168.50, then we're absolutely looking to get short, even more short, on the run up. But we're going to be really careful. 168.50 is going to be an interesting area, because if it breaks above 168.50, you can see this level right here. This is the weekly high from last week, and it also, I think it's a Friday high as well. It is Friday high, and you guys know how I love to watch these Friday highs and Friday lows. So here's our Friday low from last week, which is about 167.80. But that Friday high is about 168.50, 168.45. If it breaks above that pound dollar, then we're probably going to have a pretty nice opportunity to get in even 100 pips higher for another short on pound dollar. So we're going to be absolutely looking for that. But the daily chart is looking super fantastic, and we're just looking for this thing to get a little bit more overextended and a little more overbought. It's not looking crazy on any of the other time frames. So 4-hour chart, 1-hour chart, not looking, nothing super significant is happening on any of those other charts. So this is really a long-term trade only. As soon as some of the other charts start looking a little bit overbought, like a 4-hour chart maybe, or a 1-hour chart, and the 1-hour chart's more likely to give us that signal next, then that will even strengthen the case even more. And right now the 1-hour chart again is not anywhere too crazy. It's about creeping up on 60 bars since the last time it touched 200 moving average. So if we can get a move up, and especially if we get a break of that 168.45, 50 area, then it's just going to make this pound dollar even more interesting. And we're definitely looking for opportunities to get short. Again, we're currently short, but getting short below 170, and then if it breaks above 170, we hedge and we look for another short opportunity. A few positions short on this pound dollar would be so super great. I would love every second of that. And so that's going to be the goal this week. So getting short below 170 is absolutely what we're just going to be doing like crazy, because I think 16500 is going to be reached much sooner than later, and there's going to be a lot of pips getting there. So as you can see, just from right now, there's 300 pips to that profit target, and then we'll just kind of see how it continues to go from there. So pound pairs are going to be very, very interesting. And Ray, you bring up definitely a good question here of some of the news we have for the UK, and really the biggest news is the employment numbers. So employment numbers can definitely impact this trade, and I would love to see the employment numbers push this pound dollar higher. That would just be super excellent, and that would give us more opportunities to get short in this pair. So I'm really excited about this. Pound dollar is looking great. We have some great opportunities to continue trading that down as it rushes higher. But remember, 168.45/50 is going to be an important level. A break higher there will probably open it up for another 100 pips up. The Aussie dollar, I'm just barely looking at the Aussie dollar. I really don't have much to say about the Aussie dollar, but I'm kind of keeping my eyes out here. I've talked about this several times, the break of 9,200, and it keeps kind of running down and testing and then bouncing and testing and bouncing. And so 9,200 looks like it's going to break, and then it just doesn't. And now we're 150 pips above 9,200, and it's just kind of hopping around here. It's not really giving us any kind of interesting signal anywhere. The 1-hour chart is slowly but surely getting pulling away from the 200 moving average, and that's looking pretty good. And we have a little bit on some of these other time frames, a 15-minute chart slowly pulling away and doing a couple of things there, but it's really not giving us too much of anything. And so I don't have much of a long-term outlook on Aussie dollar, except for if it keeps running higher, then I will be looking to short it this week. If it keeps running higher. If it doesn't, then there will be no trade for me, really. But if it does keep pushing higher, then we're absolutely going to have a fantastic short as the week goes on. But again, we've really got to, it's got to keep running a little bit higher before that trade happens. If it drops anytime soon, just to keep yourselves out of trouble, if you see it hit the 200 moving average in the next 12 to 24 hours, then there's no real trading opportunity on the Aussie dollar except for the break of 9,200 most likely. So, but again, if it does keep pushing higher, then we are going to have opportunities to short. Where exactly that short might be, we'll see. You can see obviously we have this big high up here at 94.60, and so that could be significant. That could be a good area to get short against. That could be a nice little double top. But we're just going to have to see on the short term. So once again, that's kind of that'll definitely be something that we'll cover on our day-to-day trade analysis, and that's a great reason to have a look at the trade group so that you can get on some of these, because now as we start to get into summer, things will get a little more choppy, and we won't have quite as much long-term direction on some of these trades, and we'll be more looking at shorter-term trades, 100, 150 pip profit targets, which are still excellent, but it's going to be a little bit less of of what we see on the pound dollar, for example. On the pound dollar, we know this thing's coming down. It might push a little bit higher, but we know it's coming down. But as soon as it hits that 200 moving average, we're going to be more focused on shorter term trades, 100 pip profit targets and so on pound dollar and euro dollar and Aussie dollar and so on. And so summertime is going to be the slightly shorter term picture while we wait for markets to trend again. So it'll be a great reason to jump in the group with us and see some of the trades that we're doing. Dollar CAD is not giving me too much of anything. The only thing I'm looking at on dollar CAD, once again, this is a bit of a short-term setup as well. We have had a big falling wedge breakout on this dollar CAD. It's holding very nicely above the 200 moving average on the daily chart. Again, if this breaks 108.15, I'm absolutely hugely massively short dollar CAD. But if it continues to kind of hold, and if it holds around 108.50/108.75, then that daily chart breakout, that big daily chart price pattern, could give us a nice buying opportunity. And it takes us all the way down to the 15-minute chart, because what the 15-minute chart is showing us, if this can continue to move just a little bit lower and slowly, just a steady move down, then we're going to start to get a little bit of an overextended 15-minute chart as well. So we're about 50 bars out from the 200 moving average, and if this continues to just creep a little bit lower and we get into the 150 bar out from the 200 moving average type setup, then we're going to have a nice little opportunity to get long dollar CAD, and we'll definitely be looking to do that. But again, that's going to be a bit of a shorter term setup, and that'll be something that we'll be talking about tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon in our live session and live session updates. So that'll be a good little one. As far as longer term stuff goes, though, I think we've got, if this can hold above that 108.15, then we've got a great chance for 11100. So there's a couple hundred pips in there. And if that 15-minute chart continues to get overextended, or if it starts to get overextended, it's not really there yet, but if it starts to get oversold here, then we're going to get into this dollar CAD with a pretty healthy profit target, with 11100 as our profit target, and an entry possibly around 108.50. But again, it's going to depend on if it can stay below that 200 moving average for a bit longer. And if it does, there's going to be a great run up to that 11100, and we'll be jumping into that. But again, that one's not really a pending order one just yet either. We need to let it play out for a little bit longer. The Euro Aussie is such a great little trade. You can see that the Euro Aussie is currently at 145.43. We are short from 147.80 to 148.00. There's a little 20 pip area that we got in short Euro Aussie, and we are still holding it. We're still in it. You can see in the notes area there were two profit targets on here. So remember, Euro Aussie, we were looking to target 145.50 and 14200. So the end of last week we hit 145.10, and we're still below 145.50. So I'm sure many got out at that point. My long-term target is still 14200. But again, as we get into this big falling wedge here on the daily chart, so the daily chart is definitely giving us the possibilities of a major reversal pattern that could be starting. So as we see this big falling wedge starting, this is a great area to take profit. And so our first profit target might be the end-all, be-all profit target. So remember, I was looking for 140-200, but we might have to just get out with a nice little 250 pip profit target altogether on this Euro-Aussie short. So we are more than 250 pips in profit, and it's looking just super, super excellent. And again, this is probably a good area to get out and wait for this kind of a movement here, because with this big daily price pattern right here, this big falling wedge, we could see some interesting things starting to happen here. The 4-hour chart on the Euro-Aussie is slowly getting a little bit overextended. We're 80 bars out. So remember, we've got a big price pattern on the daily chart, and then we're 80 bars out on the 4-hour chart. So it's not crazy overextended, but it's starting to think about getting overextended. It's right around those average numbers. And then the 1-hour chart as well is about 80 bars out. So if both of these just even continue sideways and even push a little bit lower, then we're probably going to be looking to get long Euro-Aussie as well. So remember, we're looking for possible Euro-dollar longs and Euro-Aussie longs. Even after we're just barely exiting a massive Euro-Aussie short that we've been in for weeks and weeks. So I think there's going to be a good opportunity to get short get long Euro-Aussie if it can creep a little bit lower. So maybe sometime around Wednesday or so, we're going to be looking for entries on this Euro-Aussie to get long and trade it back up into the 146.50, 14700 even area. So it's going to be all about this big daily pattern here, and if this continues to push a little bit lower, then we're going to have some really excellent opportunities to get long Euro-Aussie. So very nice little setup there. Pound Aussie is not quite as interesting to me, and I'm just not really doing too much with this one for the moment. So I don't have a trade on Pound Aussie, and I'm just kind of holding off on the sidelines there. CAD Swiss franc, we had a really nice couple of trades on CAD Swiss franc, and then we jumped out of it, and I'm just out of it right now. I just don't really see a really great setup on this one, so I'm going to keep my eyes out. We'll see. I'm still open to the opportunity of 83.50 getting hit, but I don't really have a setup on this one. So anyone, I know that we look at the the CAD Swiss franc a lot, and we will continue to, but it's just not really giving us too much of anything at the moment. So we'll hold off on that one and see if it gets to a better setup, and then we'll be looking for some trades there. Aussie New Zealand is getting a little bit interesting on the 4-hour perspective, but we've talked about this one so much and looking for big long-term longs and shorts and so on, and so I think this pair is going to ultimately give us a really nice setup, but it's just not yet. So Aussie New Zealand's on the sidelines, dollar Swiss francs on the sidelines a little bit. We're looking for kind of the same thing to happen with dollar Swiss franc as the opposite for euro dollar. I think this dollar Swiss franc is still going to get below 8,900 and get down to this 88.50, 88.75, and we'll start looking to get long from there. But we're just kind of holding tight on the dollar Swiss franc, nothing too crazy there. Euro CAD, this one right here was starting to get a little on the crazy interesting side. Euro CAD still has a big profit target from this head and shoulders pattern that could be playing out very nicely. So we have about 600 pips from the head to the neckline, and then once that neckline finally broke, that takes us down into this 14500 area. So we're not currently in Euro CAD. We took some nice profit on this one. It bounced back a little bit. And we're going to be keeping an eye on this, but I don't think there's a very excellent trade setup just yet on this one. The 4-hour chart was a little bit oversold, pulled back a bit, and it looks like it might just be able to head a little bit higher, but I don't have a super great setup on this one just yet. And so this is definitely on the list to keep an eye on this week to kind of see where it ends up going. But EuroCAD's not quite as interesting, but PoundCAD is super, super interesting. We're loving this PoundCAD because of a couple of things. So remember, like I said, I'm really looking to get short pound pairs this week, and it could be all the way to the end of the week before we get short. but I love pretty much all the pound shorts that are setting up right now. Right now, the pound CAD is crazy overextended on the daily chart. So last time we touched the 200 moving average was 265 daily candles earlier, and so we have this huge gap here that we're looking to get filled on this daily chart. But in the process, the pound CAD is kind of creating this little falling, looks like it's creating a little bit of a falling wedge. So if that is the case, we have this nice little shooting star right here. If it ends up breaking this high here, which is about 84.10, then anything below this ultimate high, which is about 86.50, 86.65 area, I'm going to be looking to get short. So I'll be looking to short pound CAD below this high, but I think we might have an opportunity of breaking this little high right here. Again, this is a little falling wedge, and it could give us a bit of a move up there. And if it does, we're absolutely looking to get short. Ideally, I'd like to get short around or above 18500 on pound CAD, and we're going to be targeting about 180. So we'll be looking for at least 500 pips. So 180 would be our target on the pound CAD short. It's a great looking setup, but remember on the slightly shorter term here, we've got that falling wedge, which could push this just a little bit higher before we start selling it just below this ultimate high down to 180. So it's looking good there. We need to get some overextended charts. That would be super helpful and super useful to getting us into that trade. So we're going to keep an eye on some of the shorter time frames like the 1 hour and 4 hour charts to ultimately get us into that pound CAD short. So once again, pound dollar, we want to get short pound dollar below 170. We're already short right now in the group, and if it stays below 168.50, then we'll just stay in it and keep adding to it. We will eventually be getting short pound CAD, but not just yet. Pound Aussie. We're looking to get short pound CAD if it can break this high right here. And remember, this is the same thing. This is our Friday. This is our Friday high right there, which is about 184.12. So if it breaks above that, then that's just going to set us up so perfectly for that that short on the longer time frames. So let's keep an eye on that for sure. And so remember, both pound dollar and pound CAD are big daily setups. So these are going to be ones that should be good for 300 to 500 pips, and they can take a couple of weeks to play out. You know, once we get into them, we're probably going to have to hold on for a few weeks before they finally reach our profit targets, which is totally fine with me. I'm super good with that. And then to add to the list, we have the pound Swiss franc, which is doing the same thing. So pound Swiss franc is not crazy overextended on the daily chart, but it's working its way up there. This level right here, by the way, if we go back, it's the high of this year, and it's above the high of last year. So we might get a little bit of a break and a little bit of a push of that high, but we're coming into some pretty significant resistance, and it's starting to slowly get extended on the daily chart. 4 hour chart is also getting pretty interesting here on the pound CAD. So now on the 4 hour chart, we are just about 140 bars out from the last test of the 200 moving average on the 4 hour chart. So that's pretty excellent. 1 hour chart's not giving us too much, which is totally okay. But I'm going to be looking for opportunities to short the pound CAD up around this high. Now, again, this is not going to be a pending order just yet, but this 151.20 area is starting to look pretty interesting. If we break that, I just don't know how much higher the pound Swiss franc is going to be going. So we're going to keep an eye on it, but if it does break that high, there is going to be some great opportunities to short this pound CAD up around that area. And remember, we are coming into the 200 moving average on the weekly chart, which has not been hit in a very, very long time, and that's up around 152.20. So if we do break this high, it could run another 100 pips fairly easily, and there could be a buy opportunity in there. If it breaks that high, you could get long at about 151.20. I think that's definitely a good trade on this pound CAD. You can see that little high right there. It's about 151.30 actually. But if it breaks that, again, there's probably about 100 pips of upside potential above there. But especially if it does that before it retraces, then there's going to be a great little short-term buying opportunity and a longer-term selling opportunity. So this pound Swiss franc is going to be a super great one if it runs up a little bit higher. So this one's a couple of days out as well. Pound CAD, pound Swiss franc are both a couple of days out. Pound dollar is pretty much it's pretty much good to go. We're already in it, and we're in a good position. So if it continues moving higher, we've got an easy place to hedge and start and continue adding to our trades. So pound dollar is looking great. We just need to get a little bit of a run higher on both pound CAD and pound Swiss franc before we start jumping into those guys. And then again, leaning back on the pound pairs, pound yen is looking super good. So I'm loving this pound yen. It's crazy overextended on the daily chart. I mean, so far it's just totally it's so far out. I can't even hardly get back to the last time it touched. I mean, when was that? Good heavens, we're like 450 bars out, 475 bars since the last touch of the 200 moving average on the daily chart. So this is so overdue for a pullback. So the daily chart looks great. What we're waiting for is, at this point, I'd like to see the 1 hour chart make one more push higher, and then we can start trading that back to that 200 moving average. We can kind of get into a short-term trade initially, and then move it up, move stops into profit, and do some of that, and see if we can get a longer-term move out of it. But right now on the 1 hour chart, we're about 135 bars out on the 1 hour chart. So if this made another run higher and we got into 200 bars, even more on the 1 hour chart, then we could start putting on some pound yen shorts as well. So pound dollar, pound CAD, pound Swiss franc, pound yen, they're all looking great to short, and I'm loving all those to death. A little short-term easy trade that we're liking a lot, that's looking really good, is the Aussie CAD. This is a pair that I don't trade a ton, but whenever the setup is here, there's no sense in ignoring it. Aussie CAD is about 105 bars out on the daily chart from the 200 moving average. So it's looking pretty good on the daily outlook. 4 hour chart's not giving us anything too crazy, but the 1 hour chart is looking pretty good as well. So we're about 115 bars out on the 1 hour chart. So if this Aussie CAD runs just a little bit higher, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, we might look for a little short-term trade against this really short-term double top right here. And this guy's at about 102.30, and here we are at 101.90, so it's not super far away. If it can pull back a little bit, I wouldn't mind getting in above 102.00, maybe for a little short-term trade on Aussie CAD, and targeting the weekly pivot down here. We've got a nice little weekly pivot at 101.57. So if we could get in at 102.00, 102.10, there's about 50 easy-ish pips to jump into on that one. And so that should be a nice little short-term trade. I'm not ready to get into this one just yet. I'll probably have a pending order up later, but as long as it stays below this 102.30, then it could be an easy little short-term trade to sell back down to 101.50. If it breaks 102.30, that would be pretty glorious, and that would give us some very, very nice opportunities to look at shorting this above 102.50, 102.75 area, and just continue trading this back down towards that 200 moving average on the daily and the 1 hour chart. So that's a really good looking setup right there. So we have some long-term potentials on all the pound pairs, and we have a couple of short-termers on Aussie CAD, and remember, over the next 24 hours, probably dollar CAD as well. And we'll probably be looking to get long Euro Aussie and Euro dollar at some point this week as well. So we have some pretty nice setups to work with. We've got some short-term, some medium-term, and some long-term, and we really should be able to get into quite a few trades this week. So everything's looking pretty great there. We'll just kind of keep an eye on these setups. And remember, if you would like to get a free trial into the trade group and kind of see how we trade this week, you can go to daytradersfx.com and get a free trial there. So questions, comments, send them over. Let me get this recording formatting, and then I'll take your questions, and we'll talk about a couple of things that you guys might have questions.